Hi, how's it going, everybody? I've just had a nap, so I'm in a better mood. I'm in better spirits today. I just wanted to talk about this meme that was shared by a fellow TI called I can't remember her name. Yeah, it's Megan Phobes or Megan Phobes. Apologies if I have your name wrong, but she agrees with me that this meme is fucking ridiculous. So let's have a look at the term psychosis, right? Psychosis is a term used to describe when people lose some contact with reality. Common symptoms of psychosis are hearing voices or having strong beliefs that are not shared by people within your community. For example, you may be worried that the government is trying to harm you and your loved ones. I'm going to read this again, all right? And I want you to pay attention because this is important. Psychosis is a term used to describe when people lose some contact with reality. So let's say I'm in my flat, right? And I don't know I'm in my flat. I'm in my flat, but as far as I'm concerned, I'm in Siberia and it's snowing and I'm outside in the cold. So that's clearly not true. If I'm in my flat, right? And I'm imagining that I'm completely somewhere else, then I'm not where I live. I'm not where I'm supposed to be. So if somebody goes through that type of experience, then hell yeah, definitely psychosis is a thing. But when you look at the rest of this sentence, reality gets a lot more subjective because just because something is commonly agreed upon, it doesn't make it reality. Now, common symptoms of psychosis are hearing voices. Now, people can hear voices. It's not unusual to hear voices without voice to skull. But voice to skull makes it a lot easier for those voices to come through. It makes it a lot easier to amplify those voices and to make those voices so strong and so powerful that they can command you to do something. Okay, voice to skull is very, very real, and it can mimic the effects of said psychosis. And that's exactly what makes this so dangerous. Somebody could be hearing voices, but the psychosis might be, but the psychosis might not be psychosis at all. It might actually be mirrored by technology. So the hearing voices thing is incredibly dangerous. But let's continue. Having strong beliefs that are not shared by the people within your community. Now, the beliefs that I have with regards to gang stalking, they're not just something that I plucked out of thin air. Okay? It took decades of research. There were people around me who were literally confirming my suspicions. Not as a joke, they were confirming my suspicions constantly with their behavior. I have evidence of corruption, evidence of wrongdoing, evidence of people hiding evidence willfully or denying evidence willfully in order to try to rewrite other people's reality. So my beliefs might not be commonly shared by the community, but that doesn't fucking mean anything. That's another vague statement that people can play fast and loose with in order to diminish evidence of people who have actually been done wrong by their own government. And people used to say not wanting to be a slave was a mental illness as well. We're trusting the same institution that does that. Right. Let's move forward. For example, they give an example here. You may be worried that the government is trying to harm you and your loved ones. So let's recap. So people have been talking about how the COVID measures implemented by the Conservative Party in this country have led to not only more deaths, but people not being able to say goodbye to their relatives. So the general population have been harmed as a direct result of some of the decisions that the Conservative government have made, like austerity, sloppy COVID measures, the whole nine. The energy crisis is going up, bigger corporations are not being taxed. All that is happening because of the Conservative Party right now, and people are literally dying of starvation, cold and illness, especially the elderly, because of all these measures that have been put in place. So the government trying to harm us or our loved ones, no, they are actively doing it. Are all those pundits that are talking about what our government is doing to us, do they have psychosis? The people who have evidence of what's going on there, do they have psychosis? Hell, people who have actually been in the industry of defense weapons testing, who have the fucking studies and the photographs to back up everything that they're saying, do they have psychosis as well? Once again, this is just Big Brother trying to stick his dick in everyone's ear. The government have been harming people. Our governments have been harming people. They haven't been trying to harm people. They've been harming people actively through measures that they know will dwindle certain populations and elevate other populations. So it's a predictable thing of getting rid of the educated populations, getting rid of diverse populations if they can, and replacing it with ignorant populations that supplement the military, psychiatric, and prison and industrial complexes. None of that is fucking like delusion or anything. There's so much research to back this up. There is research, there is evidence to back every single thing up. And 9 times out of 10, a lot of what people talk about with regards to government harming us is just common sense. But that psychosis, common sense is psychosis. You see how they're playing fast and loose with the shit in order to silence people who are educated, not necessarily educated in degrees or what have you, but educated in the ways of the world. They're trying to get rid of those people and replace them with people who are thoroughly brainwashed because they're easier to control and they're easier to lie to. They could have used any example, literally any example. They could have used the example of, like I said before, if somebody's in their home and they believe they're somewhere else, like they genuinely believe they're somewhere else, they believe they're in another realm. Now, being an occultist and being an alchemist, I know that psychosis is a lot more complex than just hallucinations and all that type of stuff. There's all kinds of different elements behind it. But the point of the matter is, right, let's bring it back to layman's terms. Let's bring it back to everyday life. If I'm in my flat and I believe that I'm somewhere in Siberia, or I'm somewhere in a land that doesn't exist, like the fucking Green Hill Zone from the Sonic games, if I'm like in my flat and I believe that I'm in one of those places, that is psychosis. That is when you're far gone. It's like, that is inarguable. Like, that is completely inarguable. There's no evidence to suggest that I'm in Siberia rather than in Brighton in my flat. There's no evidence to fucking support that I'm in Siberia right now. None. So you can definitely say that's psychosis. But when it comes to government harming people, there's a Tuskegee crisis in America. There's the race riots in America, the Tulsa riots in America. There's the bombing of an inner city in America. There's all kinds of injuries of DEWs being used in other countries that America has fucking taken over or conquered. There are civilians that have been targeted, civilians that have been harmed. Why do you think that is? Because when they're using weapons like that, those weapons need to be tested, no? So how do we know all those weapons, thermobaric bombs, fucking machine guns, how do we know all these things haven't been tested on personnel? Because they were made for personnel, so why wouldn't they be tested on personnel? All of these things are not psychosis. But you see how people's ignorance and it's a willful ignorance. At this point, people are weaponizing their ignorance in order to play dumb just so that they can prove their ego's right. So basically, there's a process where people weaponize their ignorance and then they engage in reactive abuse to justify their point of view. And then when people finally react, they, they hold on to that point of view and say, see, that person's crazy. That person was never right. No, you just created a self-fulfilling prophecy from the ignorance that you chose to weaponize rather than do something about it. Instead of doing something about your ignorance and researching and listening to people, you chose to be ignorant. That's on you. But to call people psychotic and to have this out there, that is incredibly frightening. That's frightening and that's dangerous. I've been around enough psychotic people to know this ain't it. This ain't it. And when it comes to the BPD, somebody might have out of control emotions. But again, just because you have out of control emotions, it doesn't mean you don't know what the fuck's going on. It's a very different enterprise from having hallucinations and not knowing where you are. Dangerous. Very, very dangerous. And people are going along with this. I don't know, like, again, I'm in two minds because I want to have sympathy and empathy for people who just want to feel safe. Like I said before, there's no competing with that reptilian brain that just wants to eat shit and sleep and comfort. Or be right. Or feel like they're right anyway. There's no competing with that. At the end of the day, there's no competing with that. People will always follow that when push comes to shove. And that's how that's how the medical profession get away with shit like this. Dangerous as hell. And it's going to get worse. It's absolutely going to get worse. But anyway, yeah, I gotta go. I'm going to get on with the rest of my evening. It's about 5:30 now. So I'm probably going to watch a film or something. Just get my mind off this crap. Seriously. That's the most dangerous shit I've ever seen in my life. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous. I don't know how much more sympathy I can have for people who choose to believe this. Anyway, I've got to go. Take care. Bye.